It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Titans officially kick off training camp tomorrow with Mike Vrabel at the podium for a press conference at 11:30. The team waived safety Rodney Clemens and re-signed safety Josh Kalu, who was with the team from 2018 through 2020 over the weekend. Also, kicker Caleb Shudak, tight end Tommy Hudson, and linebacker Monty Rice, the only three players placed on the physically unable to perform list to start off camp. Tragic news locally yesterday as longtime 104.5 The Zone host and Channel 5 sports anchor Mark Howard passed away in his home on Sunday. Howard spent over 20 years at the station, 16 years hosting Wake Up Zone in the mornings. He was just 65. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Let's do this. Happy Monday to everybody out there. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Going to start the show today a little different than we normally do. We got our buddy Alex Apple sitting in for the Hitman. Always good to have Alex. Blaine's got some well-deserved vacation time. Lucas is here. I'm here. If you've listened to the station today, or maybe you're just getting out for the first time, or you work second shift or whatever it is, maybe you're just getting in the car. But if you're listening to this station, you probably know, because it's been a topic on the station all day. Our friend, our former colleague, Mark Howard, unexpectedly passed away yesterday. I wanted to say to the Wake Up, I almost said Wake Up Zone guys, Mark Howard, part of the Wake Up Zone, but to Jay Mart and Ramon, to Jay Mart and Shafe and everybody involved who did such a fantastic job this morning paying tribute to Mark and his time slot that he was so well known for with Kevin and with Frank and later with Blaine. Just a beautiful tribute, and I was honored to be part of that. And if you work here at this station, whether or not you worked with Mark, he was such a fantastic broadcaster, and he was such a big part of everything that we do here, that we did, and that we still do now. A lot of this, well, somebody asked me about it, and I said, look, even the people who work here that never worked with Mark and Kevin and those guys along the way, they built what this station is. And they were appointment listening. And when you do a radio show or you're on TV, or if there's anything that you do in this business, you got a podcast or anything, you want to become appointment listening or viewing for people. You want to know that, boy, as soon as somebody gets in the car, they can't wait to drive to work because they're going to punch up your station and listen to you. Or, in our case, we're on in the middle of the day. We hope that if you jump in the car and go to lunch, or, you work a different shift like we do, and maybe this is the time where you're out and about. We just hope that, gosh, would you'll punch up our station and listen to us. And Alex Apple is a longtime local media member and has worked in the media for years and fills in a lot here. You know this too. When you go out in the public, and Alex, longtime TV news guy, if you bumped into somebody and they said, hey, man, I watch you every night. It's a great story the other night you did about this, or, hey, I love the coverage that you gave on that, or, when the storm came and you came out and you were in all the different neighborhoods. That tells you that they feel like they know you. And that's what we want to convey.
That's maybe the best compliment you can get.
For somebody to say, hey, I always listen, I always watch you. And I know that meant a lot to Mark, and Mark's son, Jack, is just the sweetest guy. He's my friend, and we're both big Kiss fans, and I've had some great conversations with him, and I look forward to seeing Jack and giving him a hug. He's a great young man, and he was the apple of Mark's eye. Like, everything Mark did was for his son. Was just a fantastic guy. Bill says, don't forget all of us that listen to The Zone all day on our truck, or Caterpillar or UPS truck or whatever. Bill, absolutely. Delivery folks and the folks who drive a delivery route, or just any policemen and firemen. And we've had all kinds of law enforcement people say, hey, I'm out cruising all day, and I listen to The Zone. So this station is unique. And a lot of that comes from the work that somebody like Mark Howard did, and Kevin, and Paul Bible, who was on this morning, who was their producer, and Big Frank, and just everybody who's been a part of the station to build up the reputation here. And I can tell you this, if you're listening to the station and this station means something to you, just know this, you mean the same to us. Because when I go places and people know about the Zone, they always say the reach of that station is unheard of. And anytime somebody's on with us, we had a guy who owned a company and he was thinking about advertising. And one day his name came up on the show just organically. And he got so many text messages that he decided to start advertising. He said, I realize everybody listens to the Zone. So the way that you guys feel about Mark, he felt about you. And he was very opinionated. And if you called in and you didn't give a good opinion, or you had a bad phone call, or after, we're on the air at, 10:45 or 11:15 after a primetime Titans game, and maybe you'd been drinking a little bit and you called in and you didn't have a great take on the game, he'd let you know.
He didn't suffer fools very gladly.
He did not suffer fools. And it was the same thing with the broadcasting stuff. He had to see that you were prepared and that you were putting in the work like him. And I told a story this morning on J. Martin Ramon that when I first started, I was part-time. I managed a real estate office, and I'd been a TV anchor, and I was just trying to get my foot in the door. And, I likened it to, Alex, when you're in high school and you go to the first dance and you feel like I'm a total imposter and everybody's going to figure it out and everybody's going to realize I don't belong here. Well, they're worried about their own stuff. Then you go to college, if that's part of your life, and the first big party you go to, you think, I'm a total imposter and everybody can see it. And they're going, well, no, they're all just dealing with their own stuff. Well, first few times I got to cover anything, people like Mark and Teresa and Walker and Mike Keith, and there were so many people like that who were the OGs who were nice to me. And then I wind up years later, I get the offer to come and work at the Zone, and I'm doing 3HL with Brent and at that time Blaine, and I got added to the Titans radio pre- and post-game coverage. Brad Willis, Brad, if you're listening, love you. And Brad gave me that opportunity, and I was 47 years old. I'm at the age where they're like, this is the door, and here's a gold watch and a piece of cake, and I got added to the Titans coverage. And Mark and Kevin and Blaine, like, I still have people today who tell me, like, hey, man, I love you, but really, when I think of that show, I think of Mark and Kevin and Blaine. I said, I do too. I mean, I'm on the show now, and I still think of them. And I went to Mark because I really wanted to talk to him, because Brad's like, you'll be the guy who gets us in and out of, just to look behind the curtain, the host is the person who answers the phone and says it's 102 and thanks for listening to the show, and like I do for Blaine. And then Blaine gives great football insight and great basketball insight and everything else. I'm more the point guard, and the idea is the other guys get to score all the points, which is it's an honor to be the point guard on any show on this station. And I went to Mark. I sought him out, and I found when nobody was around, and I said, I guess you've heard that. He said, yeah, it's going to be great. You'll be great. Mark's thinks, yeah, it's okay. And I was like, look, I just don't. He said, I don't think anything bad. You're good at your job. You'll be great. The show will be better with you on it. And that makes me emotional thinking about it, because he didn't have to do that. He could have been completely different than what he was. But instead, he completely defused everything. He told me, you're a pro. You're going to be fine. And I keep trying to explain, well, he said, you don't have to explain it to me anymore. I know what my role is. And I said, and I know you'll do it great. And that was it. We never talked about it again. And that took less than a minute. So I loved Mark. He's a great guy, great friend, great teammate. I know you understand from being in the business, his longevity in the business and how unbelievable it was. And to be great at radio and to be great at TV. And he was great at both. It's hard enough to be good at one. He was great at both. And I know you knew you were coming in today. Again, Alex is filling in for Blaine. And I'm sure we'll talk to Blaine about this when he's back next week. But you said you even reached out to one of his longtime coworkers, just kind of learned a little bit more about him. I thought that was cool that you did that.
Yeah, I didn't know Mark terribly well. I had met him a couple of occasions. I reached out to Brian McKeegan, who's currently the sports director at Channel 5. You don't see Brian on air very much, if at all, but he really facilitates the whole sports department over there. And he worked with Mark, from 1998 to 2006. And the common refrain I've heard echoed a bunch of times on this station. I've heard it from folks on Twitter, social media throughout the last, 18 hours, however long it's been since the news broke, was that he had, and this is how I remember Mark as someone who grew up here. I would listen to 104.5 with my dad or watch Channel 5, a great encyclopedic knowledge of all sorts of sports because he was prepared and he consumed it all. And so Brian was telling me there was a time where he's sitting, and I guess it was with Kevin and I think Frank Wycheck, and they're talking about Brentwood High School on 104.5 here, the morning show, I'm sure, at one point. And guy calls in and he's saying something, and I don't know why they were talking about Brentwood High School, but he's saying that I was there at the beginning. And Mark, in his endless array of statistics and facts in the back of his head, goes, I don't remember exactly what the caller's name was. Let's just say it was Reggie. Like, oh, Reggie? He goes, wait, Reggie so-and-so, Reggie Collins? You know what? I'm making up the name. Guys, Frank and everyone. This is the guy who caught the first ever touchdown at Brentwood High School. You guys don't remember Reggie Collins? And he reacted like, I can't believe you guys don't remember this. And the guy goes, yeah, that's me. Which is just speaks to his, ability to remember the inane and to make those connections. And that really makes you a great broadcaster, to have the ability to put something like that together to make something more meaningful or to offer insight in such a way that adds context, and that's invaluable. That knowledge, we all would hope to attain that. Very few of us ever will. And so as, you talk about someone that had such a career of longevity, that's probably why he had it. A lot of people have a moment, your 15 minutes, right? You did radio for a couple of years, you did TV for a couple of years, whatever it was. To do it for several decades requires someone to keep wanting you for a very long time. And so there better be something unique about you. And I think that was probably Mark's biggest gift.
Well, that's Brian McKeegan, who was talking to you about that. Brian is, you may watch Channel 5, you may not know who he is, but one of the most talented broadcasters.
And also incredibly nice.
And just incredible people. And like you said, he worked with Mark for 16 years? Or 18?
8 years. Well, 98 to 2006.
Okay.
And so I guess Hope Hines would have still been the sports director over there at that time. And then Mark would have been doing weekend sports. And then it wasn't that long after that they started the Wake Up Zone. I don't recall exactly what year the Wake Up Zone started. But that really changed radio, too. I mean, my recollection of that, and I'm no radio savant, I just remember, though, that show was different, right? It added some insight, some depth, and kind of was ahead of its time as radio evolves, television evolves, everything evolves. And Mark played a big role in that. That's my memory of just that show being different and unique. Something that was ahead of its time when 104.5 embraced it, and those guys did an unbelievable job.
Well, here's what we're going to do today. We're gonna do a sports talk show, and Alex is here, and Lucas is here, and we're going to talk about sports, and we're going to talk about the Titans, and we're going to have a real good time, and we're going to laugh and carry on a little bit, and I'm going to try to hold myself together. It's been a tough week. Lost a good friend from college, and my mom's been in the hospital, and she's doing way better. I had several people. I mentioned that on the morning show. Just this has been a long, tough week for me, and I got to go and bury a good friend this weekend, and then whatever happens with Mark and any kind of service or memorial for him. But I'll end this segment, and if we don't have a guest, we've got John Glennon coming up next. If we're not talking to anybody today, if you want to talk about Mark or share a memory, you can do it. You can tweet us at Blaine and Mickey. You can jump in the Zone TV chat. You can call us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, 615-737-1045. If we're not on with John Glennon, the rest of the time we could take a phone call if you want to make one. But I did a segment with the J. Martin Ramon crew this morning, and I'll end this with how I ended that. So the last conversation that I had with my friend in Arkansas was on Facebook. I liked his post, and he had a new profile picture, and I said, "You look good, brother." And for Mark, I texted back and forth with Mark. Anytime his name came up, I would just text him immediately because I thought anytime somebody brought him up or how's Mark, when I got to my car or got back to my phone, I would text him, "Hey, I'm just thinking about you." Always responded, always warm and always kind. And I would always tell him to tell his son, I said, "Hello. And he would always tell me that he'd do that. But what I said on J. Martin Ramon was, we all get in this crutch if we just text each other or we just like somebody's Instagram post. And it's like, well, I was in touch with Alex today because I liked his post. You know, Alex got big stuff going on with his family, and, you know, I liked it. But it wouldn't hurt us to pick up the phone and call each other sometimes. And I said this, and several people texted me or DM'd me on various forms of social media and said, I'm calling my dad today, or I'm calling my best friend today. So let's don't get stuck in liking on Facebook, Instagram likes. Pick up the phone, actually call somebody. If they live in the same town as you, go have a Colvin with them. Go have dinner with them. Go see them. Go visit them, because you just don't know. My friend was 55. Mark was 65. You know, if you're 20, that sounds young, but I can tell you the longer you're on this earth, the younger that seems. So go see a friend, call a friend. Don't get stuck in that cycle of just liking or just mentioning somebody on social media. You know, go the extra mile. And I know they'll appreciate it. And here's the thing, you'll probably appreciate it more. Rest in peace, Mark. We miss you. Blaine and Mickey 1045, The Zone. A lot of people saying nice things about Mark Spain and the Zone TV, about Mark Howard in the Zone TV chat, and we appreciate it. And we've got John Glennon joining us now on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. We'll continue to honor Mark and remember him all throughout the show today. And JG joins us now. John, there are just always people in your market, and you've been writing in this market and doing such a fantastic job for a long, long time. Mark was such an interesting guy, though. Alex Apple is with me today, and, he made his mark on TV and in radio and was just such a giant in the industry here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think there were so many things that we appreciated of Mark, such a tragedy that he has gone at such a young age. But some of the things that stand out were certainly his background, not only where he came from, in the New York, New England region, but what it was kind of his wheelhouse. I think was sort of pro sports. So I think he was here at an especially good time, for listeners and viewers. Because Nashville was kind of changing from just a college town, obviously, to a city with, a pro football team and a pro hockey team and so much more. And, I think his knowledge, I think certainly stands out. And from like my standpoint in the media, I know he was so good and so bright. He was always going to press you and push you on issues, and you always wanted to feel like, hey, if Mark Howard knows this about the sport or the team I'm covering, I better step on it. I better make sure I'm up to snuff. And maybe the last kind of thing that stands out for me, and I'm certainly not the first person who has said this, but he had an edge to him certainly, but at the same time, very, very complimentary guy to his peers. I went on his morning show a number of times when I was working with the Athletic and covering, both the Titans and the Preds, and whether it was actually on the air or off, he could not have been more complimentary, more praising of the work that I was producing. And, he would focus on specifics in stories, so you knew he was not simply just saying something. He really knew what you had written and really appreciated it. And I think maybe sometimes in the media, we don't necessarily do that all the time. We kind of get so focused in our own little worlds that we don't necessarily look or listen to what everybody else is doing. But Mark was a guy that as hard as he worked and as much as he knew, very, very, open to appreciating the work of others.
Yeah, absolutely. And well said, John. I knew you never worked with him on a daily basis, but I knew you guys had a lot of interaction. So I just wanted to give you a chance to say something. We're just trying to kind of keep the dialogue open about him today. And we're also doing a sports talk show, which is something that he loved doing. And there was a blurb that came out from an Athletic podcast. You mentioned the Athletic. Diana Rossini was talking about Traylon Burks and talked about him being in shape and said a bunch of exciting things. I'm sure Titans fans were excited to hear that because when you get traded to fill a hole that A.J. Brown has just left, boy, a lot of Titans fans had their fingers crossed that he would show up ready to go, and maybe that'll be the case according to Diana.
Yeah, well, certainly if you're the Titans, you better hope that's the case, right?
Yeah.
Because as you said, this is not a fifth-round pick where you're kind of saying, if he makes it, great, If not, okay, we still got some depth at the position. No. This is a guy that, is expected to produce right away. It's not his fault necessarily that the Titans traded away A.J. Brown right before they picked him, nor is it his fault that Robert Woods is coming off an ACL, but that's where it stands. And, you look at a first-round guy like him that has so much talent and showed so much talent, and it's natural for those expectations to be there. They should be there. And I think, unfortunately for Traylon Burks, he's going to open his first training camp behind the eight ball because he wasn't able to participate very much in the off season, whether it was conditioning, whether it was asthma, both those things I think were probably going on factors for Traylon Burks. But, Titans fans certainly and coaches and teammates better hope that Traylon Burks is ready to go and that he's had 5 or 6 weeks to work on the conditioning and maybe get some medicine that'll help with that asthma because he's really got to hit the ground running. He has to not only learn an NFL offense for the first time, but I think it'll be a little bit more difficult for him because he actually played in the slot for maybe 70-80% of the snaps, at Arkansas. So that's another thing he's got to learn. So he's got some challenges ahead of him, and if he starts in condition, that's a big step in the right direction for him.
John Glennon, our guest. So really one of the biggest things that we've seen, I guess the rookies reported on Saturday, the vets will report tomorrow. There were some guys who started on the PUP list. Monty Rice is one of those guys, and I think Titans fans understand what a big depth piece he'll probably need to be at linebacker. There is a concern there, but there was no Traylon Burks, there was no Robert Woods, and there was no Caleb Farley on that list. Those are all really good things, meaning at least as of now, no setbacks from what they did this spring.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really good step, and we saw it certainly in the off-season workouts for Robert Woods. I'm certainly no doctor, but to me, he just looked like a guy that was so far ahead of schedule. All the things he was doing, he's sprinting, he's cutting, he's jumping and landing on that left leg, and it all seemed to be working so well for him. So this, to me, just seems like a continuation in that regard. And, for Caleb Farley, it's more like this is a kind of a start. He's a little bit like Traylon Burks from the standpoint that, last year it was tough from the start for Caleb Farley. He came in injured and after only playing just a little bit, injured himself again. And, so you're looking at 60 snaps he played his whole rookie season, and that was after sitting out his entire last year in college for COVID concerns. So there's a lot of learning, I think, ahead of Caleb Farley, but good health is obviously a great start there. I think the one injury that you mentioned, certainly Monty Rice, there are some concerns there because to me inside linebacker is a spot, behind Zach Cunningham and David Long. You don't necessarily see a ton of experience or a ton of depth there. So some of the younger guys, especially until Monty Rice starts coming around, I shouldn't say younger guys because Monty Rice is himself a younger guy, but less experienced players, Dylan Cole, Joe Jones, and the rookie Chance Campbell will have to show that they can step up there.
John Glennon, our guest at Glennon Sports. He covers the Titans for Sports Illustrated.
Hey, John, Alex here. Thanks for joining us. I'm curious. I want to dig in a little further on Traylon Burks, which I know we'll all probably be tired of doing here in a couple of weeks, but 44% last year at Arkansas of his routes were slants, screens, or flats. So things run very close to the line of scrimmage. I'm curious if you have any intel on what type of receiver the Titans would like for him to be. Now, for one, you got to show up in shape. But do you see him as a natural replacement of A.J. Brown's role, which would mean he's running the full route tree? He's, sort of that outside receiver prototypical description that you would think of? Or do the Titans have something more nuanced for this guy? Do you have a read on that yet? And perhaps it's too early to tell.
It's probably early. As I said, we might have a little bit better idea had he been, practicing more during the off season. But I think there are reasons to believe that he could be a complete guy like A.J. Brown because let's remember, so many comparisons were made to A.J. Brown, and I think some of the reason is he's obviously he's not a speed burner by any stretch. He's a big man. But what he did show, he had a very good ability to get downfield and make catches because, his size and his ability to make contested catches. And I think, B, he did such a good job. Once he got initially beyond a DB near the line of scrimmage, he did a great job of kind of stacking DBs behind him, which further allowed him to make the deeper catches. So you look at his average receptions or yards per reception last year was around 16 or so, which is impressive. But what also factors into that is something that you mentioned is the number of times that they got the ball to Traylon Burks within the line of, or near the line of scrimmage, which allowed that big body to get some momentum and boom, knock off defenders as he went. He had, if I'm recalling correctly, some ridiculous number, like I think it was around 9 yards average after catch last year at Arkansas, which is incredible. So I think, both ends of the spectrum are in play for Traylon Burks, both in terms of close to the line of scrimmage and getting downfield, sort of like A.J. Brown, assuming he is in good health and again, assuming he learns this offense and his position at a good pace.
I think the Titans' offense needs to be more efficient and generate more explosive plays next year. It's very hard to do either of those things if the offensive line is not blocking effectively for Ryan Tannehill. I'm curious about the guard spot vacated now where you have Jamarco Jones or Aaron Brewer. I looked up their PFF grade last year, apply whatever credence to that you will. Both were 56, which is a pretty middling score for whoever's going to be a starting left guard. Anyone entering camp as a favorite there? I mean, are the Titans just hoping that, hey, one of these guys will step up and we'll just take whichever one does?
Yeah, I think that's currently kind of the attitude. I think Aaron Brewer goes in sort of penciled in as the starter because of his, his background in the system and the fact he's had a few starts here for the Titans. So I think it's kind of his job to lose right now. Yeah, you're right. There's still some question marks there, certainly at right tackle too. In terms of left guard, with Aaron Brewer, to me, he seems like a great, valuable reserve player is what, kind of my take on Aaron Brewer so far. He's always ready to go. He's versatile. He can play different positions. He scraps. He fights. He's an athletic, quick guy. But do all those traits automatically say, okay, we want him to be our next starter at a key position, especially given the fact that the offensive line protection was so poor last year? Aaron Brewer has to prove that. I think in the coming weeks, and especially when the Titans go up against the Bucks and the Cardinals in practices, I think that'll show a lot as well. But I think to me for both left guard and right tackle, where Dylan Radins is sort of penciled in, there's still that question, and you still wonder if there's a veteran available, and there's still some veterans available on the free agent market right now, and normally a few others start to shake loose. You wonder if these guys aren't necessarily showing that they're starter caliber. Maybe the Titans look back into that market, but we'll see. Perhaps they will show the Titans what they're looking for.
John Glennon, our guest at Glennon Sports, covering the Titans for Sports Illustrated. You think there's – well, let me ask you this. Derrick Henry had 378 carries in 2020 when he hit the 2,000 mark. So then in 8 games last year, he has 219, which put him on track for something crazy like 465.
460, yeah.
If you were – like if your nickname was Vegas Glennon, and we were going to take you to Sin City, and you were going to set the over-under on carries for Derrick Henry, where do you land setting that number?
Let's see. If I'm setting the number there, I probably land somewhere around 300, I think. And wow. that maybe that changes. And it's funny to say that, most running backs, you say 300 attempts, you say, whew, that's quite a workload for the year.
And for Henry, it's like, that's all?
Yeah, you're like, wow, that's a step down for Derrick Henry. Are you kidding me? But
he'd have to stay healthy to get there. Yeah. That'd be your big silver lining.
Right. Yeah, absolutely true. But, at some point, I think you have to start giving him a little bit of a breather. The one thing I wonder, too, though, this is kind of a Derrick Henry dilemma. I wrote about this a little bit earlier, is like, one of the things that makes Derrick Henry so effective is that Derrick Henry pounding away on the defense for quarter after quarter after quarter and carry after carry after carry generally makes him a better and more effective runner later in the game. And I wonder if you don't have as many carries earlier in the game and he is not pounding on that defense and tiring them out, is he as effective later in the game? So that's a question for the Titans for them to answer. But I think you have to trim the workload just a little bit, given the fact that he is coming off really the first significant injury, proving that he is mortal, which a lot of us couldn't believe there for a long time. And then, you also have to remember, I think Hassan Haskins is a back that strikes me that, can play a similar style to Derrick Henry, a tough physical guy that he can wear down defenses too, and that if you give him a few carries more than backups in the past might have got, I think, I think that's okay. I think Derrick Henry can be effective maybe in about 300 for an entire season.
Puts him at 17 a game. Not bad. I want to ask you one more question about adding someone, because you made me think of it as you were talking about going to the veteran well on the offensive line. And this, to me, doesn't quite make sense in my mind, unless the Titans have a different vision or belief in Nick Westbrook-Akina that perhaps I don't subscribe to yet. They're going into the season with basically the same depth as last year. You had Julio and AJ. Now you got Robert Woods and Traylon Burks. Yeah, you drafted the guy from UCLA late in the draft. That's probably a bonus if he contributes. So injuries put you at Nick Westbrook-Akina as your number 2 again pretty quickly. Catastrophe hits, you get what you got in New England last year. Are they going to sign another receiver? Even if it's a depth play, I can't imagine they wouldn't want to embrace more depth given what they went to last year.
I would agree with you. I think there's certainly a need there for depth. If you didn't have question marks about Robert Woods, if you did not have question marks about Traylon Burks, and again, maybe those guys answer those question marks early on in camp, but right now you don't know. So I do think there's that need for depth and for experience. And again, maybe you go a couple weeks into camp and you're saying, geez, Des Fitzpatrick is really lighting it up. He's come a long way. Racey McMath has made strides, or Josh Malone continues to look as good as he did in the off season. Maybe if you see some of that, maybe that keeps you, less likely to jump into the free agent market. But I do think as matters stand right now, it couldn't hurt to add some experience and somebody, who is healthy, who is reliable, and obviously you're not going to get a Pro Bowl receiver this time of year. But I think there are still guys out there, a guy like an Emmanuel Sanders, to me, comes to mind. I know he is not a young man. He's probably 34 years old, I believe, but still, last year in a prolific Buffalo offense, averaged about 15 yards a catch. And I want to say off the top of my head, 40 or 50 catches as well. So he's a guy that comes to mind as a possibility. And certainly the name that is getting brought up time and time again is Will Fuller, because of the speed element. We all know that the Titans need, as we talked about earlier, a big play element, someone who can take the top off, who can add a little space on the defense. But I just don't know, given how important, maybe extra important with the Titans that availability is, and that is something that Will Fuller has struggled mightily with during his career. So I just have question marks as to whether the Titans would take a shot at Will Fuller.
JG, thanks for the time today and for the memories of Mark and just for getting with us today. I know we're kind of getting ready to rock and roll tomorrow with the Titans, vets, and everybody reporting. But thanks for chatting it up with us today. We appreciate it. And at Glennon Sports on Twitter, of course, anywhere they consume, SportsIllustratedSI.com for your Titans coverage. Thank you, sir.
Okay, appreciate you guys letting me talk on the Titans and Mark as well. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you. John Glennon, another fantastic journalist in this town for a long, long time, and we appreciate that anytime we put out the call, he answers. When we come back, Diana Rossini was on a podcast talking football on The Athletic and got into Traylon Burks. If you haven't heard this audio yet, and even if you have, you will want to hear this. Kind of shape is the rookie in. She breaks it all down. We'll play that next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Alex Apple sitting in for the hit man for a little while. We appreciate Alex anytime he checks in. Saw this cross my timeline on social media this weekend. Diana Rossini, which if you know the Titans nationally, she seems to be somebody who's very plugged into, like, extremely
She's
well.
got to have Vrabel or John Robinson as a
Plugged into the organization. She was doing a podcast on The Athletic. It was the Athletic Football Pod. And I haven't heard the entire thing. I've heard the stuff she said about Traylon Burks, but this came up. And for all of you who have been hoping against hope and, like, oh, gosh, please let him come back in shape, this might make you feel good. This is what Diana Rossini said on the Athletics Football Podcast about one Traylon Burks.
They think it was the right move. They thought it was the right move. And AJ gets shipped. They go for Burks here. And there are some characteristics that are similar to AJ. I wouldn't say a lot, though. But there are some things that he does that I know that they're excited about. So I show up to camp, and he can't even get through warmups because he's winded. And the first sign of anyone ever getting winded, only because it was me when I was in college, is whenever someone's shoulders hurt because you're breathing the wrong way, right? So you're doing weird things with your body to catch your breath, and he was doing it. And so then all of a sudden he had ice on his shoulders. And I'm not trying to play doctor here, but just as a reporter standing on the sideline, I knew right away, I'm like, he is out of shape. The damn rookie that they drafted in the first round is out of shape. This is a nightmare. Vrabel is going to have this kid running from Tennessee to Ohio. And everything I've heard since then has been awesome. I've heard he's in shape. I've heard he's lost weight. I've heard there's been so much growth already. And this is an organization that doesn't like to share, I don't want to say it doesn't like to share positive stuff, but they're not quick to go there. And the stuff I've been getting from some people, some low-level people too as well, like they've heard that, oh, he's working out tons, he dropped the weight, he's good to go. So I think heading into camp, this is a really good first step, considering I thought that was going to be an absolute disaster.
I'll tell you what I think about this.
There you go. She put it all out there.
I said this with Blaine last Thursday. The biggest thing to me, and this news was broken on 3HL when they had Sam Pittman on, Arkansas head coach who coached Traylon last year, that he did the same thing as a sophomore. Mm-hmm. Came in out of shape, struggled in the first week. You are a pro now. Now, the good news is, do I think he kind of has it between the ears? Yeah, I bet he does. He's now made a dumb mistake twice. I don't think we're looking at an Isaiah Wilson scenario to borrow a recent example.
Well, you just had people turning the car off the road.
That's exactly the fear, right, for Titans fans, that you're in a situation, I guess. But I think this guy's smart enough to realize, I got one shot at this thing. That's what we're talking about now. Not do you want to work, that kind of thing. Are you smart enough to realize what's at stake for you? We don't know the answer for sure. But isn't that what this comes down to, Mickey?
We know what the answer needs to be, and it needs to be that this dude comes in, because we were all watching the pre-draft process, and it's funny you were talking about Pittman, saying this stuff to 3HL. I got in a rabbit hole one night on Twitter about just Traylon Burks and being in shape and asthma, and I was just trying to find anything like, where did this start? Did it all just start here? And it actually went back to about a year ago. A year ago last week, Sam Pittman at SEC Media Days. He's was delivering his filibuster. And he was talking about Traylon Burks, and he goes, Traylon's got to get in shape. He's got to realize you can't be off hog hunting all the time. Yeah. You got to get in shape. He's not in shape. So Sam Pittman literally said that a year ago before the season started, the same thing that was said again.
Because here's the concern. If he's not ready, and you can't play him week one. If he's not had any live reps, you can't play him. No matter how talented he is. Robert Woods isn't ready. You're staring at Nick Westbrook-Akina, the guy from UCLA, whose name I haven't even memorized his name yet. Kyle Phillips, who can play in the slot, and I do think he's going to contribute. I loved that draft pick. And what? And that's why I brought up the question to John Glennon. They're going to dip their toe in the free agent well and sign someone?
Here's who it is. Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, NWI, Josh Malone, Cody Hollister, Des Fitzpatrick, who people forget was a freaking fourth-round pick last year, Racey McMath, and Mason Kinsey.
I mean, they've got a lot of slot guys in there
Yeah.
or potential slot guys
Slots
in there.
covered.
I mean, you've still got some talent out there in the free agent pool. I don't know if they're going to sign Will Fuller. He's no more available than Julio Jones was last year. He was less available. Cole Beasley, he caught 80 passes in Buffalo, but he
know if
kind
you need another
of
slot guy.
frayed some nerves up there.
Yeah.
I know you said Blaine likes Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
Maybe Pleasant Else. I'd go get one of those guys. After the attrition that they faced last year, I'd go get one. And I'm not saying the guys that they got can't play. Maybe they never face a situation like that. But I'd go get one just to be sure I was prepared if I did.
I'm not so sure that the next depth receiver is not on the roster, that he's not somewhere else right now and he's going to get cut somewhere because he makes too much money and, they've got two young guys that have to play. I'm not.
Yeah.
I think they're going to solve the offensive line with what they got with the Jamarco Jones or Aaron Brewer. And I think somebody down there is lighting a candle and saying a prayer that Dylan Radins can be the right tackle. And Nicholas Petit-Frere's a third-round pick. I mean, at some point, he's got to figure into that. I think and Corey Levin, I think, was here before, and he's back. I think he's a depth guy on the interior. That feels like all ashore that's coming ashore. I don't know about the receiver thing because good football players are going to get cut. I'm not so sure that the depth guy isn't somebody who isn't on another team right now and is going to get cut. All right, hour number 2 is coming up with the show. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. Lots of Titan stuff to get to. Veterans Report tomorrow. Football season is here. We'll discuss some moves that the Titans have made and maybe what that means with some moves that they didn't make. We'll talk about that next.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans officially kick off training camp tomorrow. Mike Vrabel will meet with the media in the morning. Team made a few transactions over the weekend, waiving safety Rodney Clemens and re-signing safety Josh Kalu, who was with the team from 2018 through 2020. Kicker Caleb Shudak, tight end Tommy Hudson, and linebacker Monty Rice were placed on the physically unable to perform list to start camp. And tragic news in local media yesterday as longtime Zone host and Channel 5 anchor Mark Howard passed away in his home on Sunday. Howard spent over 20 years with the station, 16 years hosting Wake Up Zone in the mornings. He was only 65 years old. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Happy Monday to everybody out there. Hope you had a great weekend, having a great start to your week. We'll start the second hour of the program today a little bit similar to how we started the first. If you've been listening to the station today, or maybe you're just getting a chance to turn on The Zone, we've spent today paying tribute to our former colleague, Mark Howard, and recognizing just his contributions, not only to the station, but to doing sports on television as well in this market. And we've also talked about Mark was a friend to so many of us, and he was a colleague to so many of us. We spent I know Jay Martin and Ramon, if you caught that show this morning, they did a fantastic job and really paid tribute to Mark. And I know Buck Rising told me he, did his best to pay tribute to Mark. And they weren't two guys who knew each other much, but certainly great respect there on the part of Buck. And I opened the show today, and we shared some stories about Mark. And I'll tell you this, the second hour of the program, we don't have any guests. There's anything that you want to tell us about Mark, if you've got a story, you can drop it in the Zone TV chat. There's been several people who've told real nice stories about Mark there. We've gotten several tweets, Blaine and Mickey, of people telling their feelings and sharing stories about Mark. So, again, we don't have any guests in this hour. You want to share a story, or you just want to talk about him, or share your feelings, you can do that. 615-737-1045. That's the number for the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. It's a number maybe you called and maybe you had a bad take, and maybe you caught some of Mark's wrath on this phone line sometime.
There's some of you out there.
Some of you out there experienced that. And others of you called in and you gave a well-reasoned and well-thought-out take, and you took the subject on down the line, and Mark probably really appreciated that.
That's right.
Gave you your props, because that's how he was. He expected he was a guy who his thing was he was going to be excellent every day. He had 20-plus pages of notes. He was prepared to take a conversation in any way. It didn't matter if it was about high school hockey, or if it was about the Predators, or if it was about high school football, or if it was about the Titans, or anything to do with college football. Mark was always prepared. John Glennon joined us earlier, and he said the thing that struck him about Mark was just his knowledge of not just of sports, but how well he knew all pro sports and the emergence of the Titans and the Predators in this town. It was a perfect marriage between that emergence of professional sports, because he'd done a great job covering college sports here as well in the 90s before the pro teams got here. And John Glennon told a fantastic story and said what a great parallel that Mark's rise really came along and along with the rise of pro sports in Nashville. So I'll say this, Mark, we love you. We miss you. To Mark's son, Jack, buddy, if you were listening, I love you. You're my buddy, and I just want to see you and give you a big hug. And your dad meant a lot to a lot of people, but you meant more to him than anything. You were the apple of his eye. So we'll continue to share some thoughts and memories about Mark, but we're also going to do a sports talk show in the second hour. We're going to talk Titans, and we're going to talk a lot of stuff that Mark liked to talk about, because he would be like, don't be fussing. Don't fuss about me. Don't do this. Just talk sports and do the thing I would have done, and be prepared. And let's talk about the Titans, because the Veterans Report tomorrow. I know we got Eric on the line, so let's do this. Let's take a call from Eric. You want to join the discussion, you are welcome to. I know a lot of you were shocked to hear what you heard, and you're coping with how you feel. We're doing the same thing. So we're doing our best to just kind of to work through our feelings, but we also want to do the thing that Mark did, which was come on here every day, turn on the microphone, give you the best we got. Let's grab Eric's call right quick. Eric, thank you for checking in today. It's good to hear from you.
Hey guys, the thing that I remember sometimes, all the stuff that been on there, especially between Mark and Blaine, sometimes y'all got into it pretty heavy at times on some discussions, and also Frank, and as well as the way where Mark talked about he would challenge Frank, and then he would walk and dry stuff, and all that. What happened after that, it was just stuff like that, and how everybody would always pick on Mark and stuff like that. And what was hilarious was also a lot of times when I would call in, like when they did the things like put a socket in other contests where you win stuff, and I won several times, especially the thing that Kevin would like, whether it was me or somebody else, we call in and correct Mark on something that we was wrong about, and he would feel so sheepish about it. And also when they also gave him a hard time when he would go through the buffet line and stuff and everything, it just... it's just a lot of memories. And the thing about Mark is this, he definitely did not suffer fools. I mean, he definitely, if he felt like you were wrong, I mean, he would let you know, and he'd cut off people and stuff, and it kind of drove people crazy. And every time I thought Mark I felt bad for some of the callers because I thought he kind of maybe went a little bit too far. But Mark, whether you like him or not, he knew his stuff.
He did.
I mean, I got to give him his props. I mean, he knew his stuff, and a lot of people, I think, kind of reserved him for me because he was from New York, and I always talk about his loves of the Yankees and the teams from up north and all that type of stuff, and the Celtics and the Rangers. But Mark, whether you like him, he knew his stuff, and he definitely had a lot of friends here. And I was just thinking about some of those people and on numerous stations and everything. So, rest in peace, Mark. I know he definitely loved his son. I did not know him that well, and I was not personal friends with him or anything like that. But I know definitely he loved his son, and he definitely loved his job and loved what he did. So just throwing some thoughts out there. Guys, y'all take care and have a great day.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. He loved the listeners of the station, and I'll finish up the thoughts on Mark with this. And I said this in the first segment of the show. People are telling us, a lot of people, Mark was family to me. Mark felt like family to me. I got into the zone because of the Wake Up Zone, and Mark and Kevin and Frank, and they became like family to me. Well, just know this. All of us who work here, we feel the same about you. And Mark did too. Now, sometimes you fight with family, right? Sometimes you get into it, you mix it up a little bit with your family. Well, Mark mixed it up with some of you guys. He loved you and he appreciated you. And he knew that there's no zone without you. So all of you who listen, who share some of your time with us every day, just know you meant a lot to him. You mean a lot to me. You mean a lot to all of us here. We appreciate you. The station's not the station without you. The zone is the zone because of the people who listen to the station. Yeah. And Mark knew that.
I think the best thing that you can be remembered as is someone who was family, or who was impactful in your life. Even if you didn't like what Mark said, didn't like his takes, didn't like that he liked the Yankees, you listened, and he was a part of your life, and that's how I think anyone in this business would like to be remembered. And so credit to Mark for doing that so well for such a long period of time, because that's difficult to do.
It is. Caller number 43, checking in about one Mark Howard. 43, how you doing, man?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have been a long time Titans hater, and everybody knows it, especially Mark. And I spent years and years and years just aggravating him and trying to make it my goal to be the biggest pest I could ever be and make him go off the rails and lose his cool. Many a post-game show. You talk about long suffering, man. There was some rough years there. This guy would sit there for 3 hours and just tolerate idiot callers, much like myself, many of whom were into the cups, as they say, and he never once ever lost his cool. I have a massive, massive mutual respect for that guy. Much like you, Mickey, I bumped into him on remotes and things of that nature, and he's like, pulled me off to the side, and he would say, "Man, you're just relentless, aren't you?" I said, "Just like you, Mr. Howard." And I think there was a mutual respect there. I mean, I gave him so much grief, and it was fun when the Titans were down, and I would poke the bear and call him, be a jerk to him. But it was all in good fun. Ultimately, I called him a carpetbagging Yankee and told him to take himself back to New York if he was such a big shot. But it was all just right to one another's face, and he knew who I was, and I knew him. And, man, it was really, really sad to wake up this morning. I thought of all you guys, especially you, Mickey, and I thought of Frank and Kevin and the afternoon boys, and it's really sad. He's one of a kind for sure. I'm not a big fan of the team he covered, but I love my hometown and I love my sports, and I think we're all better off for having known him in big ways and small ways. I don't think there's a single person that regrets that they got to know and listen to his expertise.
Well, caller number 43, rather, you probably made Mark better because everybody needs a great foil.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he probably fed off of that. Even though it's hard sometimes when you're being confronted, I know he did a great job of that. My dad used to love when he would, especially after the Titans games, right? Everybody's calling in. They want to fire everybody, cut everybody, burn it down after a tough loss. Mark was so consistent with his opinions and telling everyone else what he thought of their opinions. I mean, that was almost sport.
It was must listen. Yeah. We got time for one more. Chief in Mount Juliet. Thank you for calling, Chief, and for sharing with us. How you doing today?
Doing well, guys. Doing well. Still in shock over the news, but I know he lived life to the fullest, and he loved his son, and I can relate to that as much as I love mine. But I was telling the thing is, even disagreeing with Mark, it's a weird dynamic because it was almost as enjoyable as when I would find myself agreeing with him. He was just that much of a consummate professional in what he did that even though he brought a different angle or a different light, it was just as enjoyable to listen to him when I didn't agree to him as when I did agree with him. So I'll get off here and let other people go about it. But he definitely is going to be missed. He was. You can't write a book on Nashville sports without a Mark Howard chapter.
Goodness, Chief, that was
true.
Beautifully said, man. That's and this came up earlier, and I said, if you become appointment listening or watching for anybody, for one person, much less hundreds or thousands of people, that means you've done your job. And Mark was that for so many people on TV first and then on radio. He did it in two different mediums. Alvin has checked in. Let's take one more call and talk about our friend Mark Howard with Alvin, who joins us now. Alvin, how are you doing today?
How are you doing?
What's going on?
Hey, I just like to say it like this, man. But when y'all had switched over and y'all had let him go and y'all came in, I had stopped listening to y'all for about 3 months because that's how mad I was. But one thing I can say about him, man, he was a good person, good-hearted. He would do a lot of the high school football games. One thing I can remember, it's not funny, but it is funny now. But do you remember that segment when P.K. Parker-Harsky and Blaine Bishop got into it? And he was like, hey. He was like, hey, enough. That's all I got on it.
Yeah, Mark wasn't afraid to stick his nose into anything. He was not. He was fearless, and he was tenacious, and always told his truth. And again, we didn't want to start either hour of the show today without paying tribute to him, and just letting him know and let the people who know and loved Mark that we loved him too, that we were fortunate to know him, we were fortunate to love him. We'll get to our Titan stuff when we come back. Appreciate the phone calls. I see Coach T is checking in. We'll continue to take phone calls. We'll do that. It's Monday. We always have a little fun on Monday. We do our Ding Dong of the Week segment. We've even got some, I believe we've even got some amazing tickets that we're going to give away to our best Ding Dong of the Week. Kevin Hart tickets up for grabs when we do Ding Dong of the Week in the next segment. We'll share some Titans stuff and more. We'll continue to put in some phone calls as well. If you want to call in, share your memories and pay tribute to our friend Mark Howard, who we tragically lost yesterday, you can do that as well. It's Blaine and Mickey with special guest Alex Apple. He's hanging out for Blaine for the next few days. So we're going to be covering a lot of ground, but didn't want to look forward today without looking back at our friend Mark Howard. We'll be right back. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. We will do Ding Dong of the Week coming up in just a couple of minutes. If you've got
because I got a good one.
something you want to share in that regard, 615-737-1045. And whoever has the best Ding Dong of the Week will get Kevin Hart tickets. We have Kevin Hart tickets to give away. So anyway, we do have open lines. 615-737-1045. We're going to award our favorite one today with a prize. We have tickets to see Kevin Hart at Bridgestone Arena. That is coming up Wednesday, August 3rd. Thanks to our friends at Window Nation. We appreciate them. And
That's a pretty good gift. I've been watching a Kevin Hart TV show where he's playing himself, but he's not actually, it's not comedic, it's a dramatic role.
okay.
I got newfound respect for Kevin Hart.
Okay.
I forget the name of the show, though. Otherwise, I'd recommend it. No free shout-outs on this show.
He's one of these people that's made so many movies. If you're up at like 2 o'clock in the morning like me and you
can
can't
find
sleep,
him.
there's a Kevin Hart movie on, and you're going to laugh at it. I mean, whether you want to admit that you did or not. Here's what we're going to do. We got a couple more phone calls. We promise you, today is Mark's day. If you wanted to talk about Mark Howard, if you're just joining us, got the tragic news yesterday that he had passed away. When we have more information, we'll certainly give it out, or ways that you can honor him or anything like that. Once we know that information, we'll pass it along. But we wanted to give people a chance today to call and share memory or thought about Mark. We'll do that. Alex Apple's here today. He's sitting in for Blaine. Let's take these Mark calls. Then we'll have a little bit of fun, and we'll give away these Kevin Hart tickets. But Coach T will lead us off in this segment. Coach T, thank you for calling Blaine and Mickey.
Hey, what's up, buddy? I tell you what, it's you can't put a lot of words together, but what I can say on my half, me moving in from Chicago and getting the opportunity to meet Mark and the guys, I remember early on when he and Check and Blaine was putting together the show, and they gave me the opportunity to come in on a platform and talk, really opinionated to a lot of things, and it got to the point where I felt like I was just part of the show. Except Blaine and myself, we were doing what we call a rodeo show in Nashville, where we were going out speaking to high school kids and administrators about stuff like that. And Mark just wrapped his hands around me, man, and was able to just allow me to be a part of the show in the morning times all the time. Would call me sometimes and say, hey, Coach T, we want your opinion about, NBA or college or recruiting or high school. So to lose a voice and lose a person like that in the city, it's going to be missed, man. And I tell you what, I just want to call in and say thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Coach T, thank you. Thank you for the phone call. Let's get Travis in Nashville next on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Hey, Travis, thank you for calling.
Hey, man, as a lifelong Nashvilleian, it's a tough loss. I've never called into the show before, but I just had to call in and share this story. My church hosted Mike and Bud Fisher for a men's event, and the Zone's morning crew, Mark read a live ticket giveaway for like a few days, and we gave tickets away. So after the event, me and one of the pastors brought 24 Dunkin' Donuts as a thank you, and they let us sit up in the green room waiting for them while they were on there. Well, Kevin and Blaine and Mark came out there and spent some time with us, and, Blaine grabbed a donut, and they all were very gracious with their time, what limited time they have. But as soon as they had to go back, Mark goes, well, guess I'll start my diet tomorrow, and grab one of the boxes and went into the city.
That sounds like him.
That's pretty good.
Travis, thank you, man. That's a great story. I can hear him saying that. All right, let's get Forrest. Again, if you want to try to win these Kevin Hart tickets, you have to call in and give a Ding Dong of the Week. It's a segment that we do every week. It could be sports related. It could be not sports related. If you mess something up, Blaine calls you a ding dong. That's where the segment came up. If you want to share one, that's how you have to win the tickets to Kevin Hart. Then we'll pick the best submission, 615-737-1045. But first, let's get one more call about our friend Mark from Forrest in Nashville who's checking in. Hey, Forrest.
Hey, guys. I used to be a regular caller to the Wake Up Zone with Frank and them guys were on there, Mark, and I'd call in regularly. I was constantly busting Mark's chops about his Yankees. He would go on and on and on about the Yankees, and I got tired of hearing about the Yankees. So we'd go round and round and round. Well, I got the opportunity to come in and spend an hour in the studio with them one time, and I was just standing there listening to him and everything else. Well, during a commercial break, Mark stood up, and he came over, and he shook my hand. He goes, so you're the knucklehead that's always busting my chops about the Yankees. And I said, yeah. And he goes, so who's your team? I'm like, the Rockies. He goes, then don't call busting my chops anymore until you guys actually win a World Series.
Yeah.
I said, all right, you got me, Mark, thanks. But, I mean, rest in peace, man, person, his family. He is truly going to be missed. He was one of the greats.
Sure was, Forrest. Thank you.
I bet Mark was loving this Yankee season, too.
Oh,
God, you talk about a team.
Well, I think a lot of
Aaron
people
Judge
around
might
here
hit
who
60.
aren't the biggest Yankee fans would have a pretty big smile on their face if they were able to go on and pull this thing out, even though it's not their team, because they would know that Mark was somewhere smiling about it. Let's play the music, Lucas. Let's do what we do on Monday. All right, when you hear that music, you know what it means. It's time for Ding Dong of the Week. As we like to say, don't be a ding dong. Use Mark Spain. As Mark Spain likes to say, go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today and start packing. So, again, you call in 615-737-1045, and we will pick the best submission, and that person will get Kevin Hart tickets. It's real simple. It doesn't have to be rocket scientist, rocket surgery. Just call in with a ding-dong, like Bam, who will lead us off. Bam, how in the world are you doing today, buddy?
Man, I'm good. How are you, man?
Fantastic.
Yo, first, to answer my man's question, the name of that movie was called, well, the Kevin Hart, it's called True Story.
Yes, good show.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really intense. You don't expect that from him. Yeah, but it was really, really good. But, man, my ding dong of the week is actually music related.
Oh, I like it.
Very hilarious.
Okay.
Okay.
You're pulling on
so
Mickey's
I
heart
play-
right here, trying to win this thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was playing at a gig Saturday. Well, I was preparing to play at a gig Saturday, and one band was coming off, and our band, everybody was there. We were, prepared. We were letting the other band break down. Well, this guy comes in with his band, and he comes in with about 30 to 40 people. I mean, he comes in like picking up tables and everything. So we're like, hey, bro, he's like, hey, we're getting ready to get set up. Whoop-de-whoop. I mean, just making a big scene. Yeah, we almost sold the club out. Come to find out, the manager had to come down and tell him that he was booked for the next Saturday. Man, you want to talk about embarrassing. He had like 40 people in. I mean, they bought tickets, they bought tables and everything, and they weren't even performing that night.
Oh.
So if that ain't a ding dong, I don't know what is qualified to be a ding dong right there, buddy.
Ding dong. Thank you, Bam.
right there.
Yeah, you can call him with a music story. That tugs at my heartstrings and my bass strings. Tony the Stud up next, sharing a ding dong of the week. Remember, Kevin Hart tickets on the line for the best ding dong here. Tony, what you got?
Well, my ding dong of the week goes to the entire Boston Red Sox organization for going over the last 5 games in a stretch where they were 0-4, getting beat 67-13 to awaken dead baseball fans like myself who don't even watch the sport anymore to come back alive and have to watch not only how bad their fans have been during the stretch, but just how bad their baseball has been. The Boston Red Sox, the storied Boston Red Sox, you guys are awful. What a ding-dong of a week. 0 for 5, 67-13 outscored. Boo.
That's a good one right there. Hey, 12-29 the Red Sox are against the AL East. That's driving the people up there crazy. My wife's family is from Rhode Island. I was listening to some Red Sox talk. Mark would have loved that, too. Speaking of something he would have loved.
Yeah.
28-5 they got beat by the Blue Jays. That is a ding-dong right there.
Let's see. Phone lines ringing. All right.
I got one for you,
Lucas,
Mickey.
Lucas is in there fielding the phone calls. We'll get back to the phones in a minute. What you got, Alex
Let
Apple?
me hit you with 30 seconds on this. Buck did a great job discussing this earlier. How about the Pat 40 column about Tennessee athletics, Tennessee fans, saying that the Jeremy Pruitt and 18 level 1 violations is the Greg Schiano uprising come home to roost. I bet if you asked every Tennessee fan 5 years ago, this is where your team will be. You'll have Heupel as a coach. You'll be showing some progress. You'll seem like you're on the upward trajectory. You'll have Blaine and Brent on here on the radio saying that they're the third best team in the SEC. 5 years ago, you'd have taken that. The team, I don't think, is going to get punished in the same way that the NCAA used to punish universities and programs. Now, Jeremy Pruitt, Brian Niedermeyer, those guys are in trouble. Might see a show cause there. Ding dong of the week is Pat 40, though, saying that this is not what Tennessee fans should have been doing, that they should still have Schiano. It's misplaced ire with the Tennessee fans. If you haven't read that column, do it. As a Vols fan, it'll fire you up. Pat Forty's paid to have an opinion. I just think it's the wrong one.
Oh, well, if you're good at math, they spent about $1 million to defend themselves and saved about 11.
Which is ironic because a lot of that article is about the cost of hiring Jeremy.
They saved
Pruitt.
$12 million.
Yeah, they did.
Do your homework.
I mean, there is that. Whether you liked him or not, it costs from a cost standpoint. Cost analysis shows that was the right financial move. Lucas Panzica, what is your ding dong?
My ding dong of the week is Jimbo Fisher for this.
Listen, we're great. We two competitive guys that go at it. Listen, we all learn from things we do in our business. You got two competitive guys on a topic that is very everywhere, as they say. There's no rules in this thing and where it goes, and each state has different laws and everything. And like he said, I heard a statement he made, the arguments we had in the staff room and on the basketball court and all those things. But on the basketball court, we didn't have them. We were always on the same team. So we usually had them against other people. So I have great respect for Nick. And that's unfortunately our thing went public, and that's sometimes that happens in this world. Nothing's private anymore, is it? Anyway, but no, we have great respect for Nick, and we all learn from him. We all will learn. Like he said, he was learned. Hopefully I learn from things we do and say, and we move on from there. But have great respect for him and their program like always.
That's Jimbo Fisher talking about the public spat between he and Nick Saban in the offseason. Nothing's private anymore, is it? Everything goes public. Usually things are pretty public when you call a press conference to roast the other person. So, yes, Jimbo, I'm sorry that did not stay private when you called an unscheduled press conference in the moment.
That is only works in 2022 America, where you can call your own press conference and then blame the very thing that you did as the reason for your problems.
Nothing's private these days. It's like someone hacked into his phone or something. You called a press conference.
Oh, Jimbo.
Yeah, I was on the record.
Talking fast.
And I'll say this. A&M fans loved it. They loved him going at Saban. They loved it.
If you're Alabama, it's punching down. If you're A&M, punch up. Now, the backpedal last week didn't make much sense to me.
No.
Especially what Lucas told.
Everybody's been kind of crawfishing since then, swimming backwards. But if you ever wonder who's the most powerful person on a campus, it's the football coach. Because most anybody else, whomever, like in this case, would be a sports information director, you go to that person and you calm them down and you say, don't just walk out there right now. You're too mad. Let's release a statement or let's do it another way. No, they said, where do you want the backdrop and which room do you want it in? So let's just call whatever you want. And he said a bunch of stuff and has since then backed down off of it. Mine is just cheap Major League Baseball teams. The A's had a guy who made the All-Star team and we're going to make him fly. I mean, we're talking not football billions, but we're still talking multi-million dollar owners. And the A's were going to go make this guy catch a commercial flight.
I'm surprised my Cincinnati Reds didn't put their all-star in an Uber.
I'm 100%.
Hey, good luck driving out there.
Yeah, to California.
Baseball's broken in that sense. The way that teams tank in that is... I can't even hardly. We were just talking about this. Can't even hardly turn on a Reds game.
I'm just going to give it to. I've given it to Major League Baseball like 6 times. That they're just. It's a ding dong sport, and Rob Manfred is a ding dong. He once again defended the little bit of the bleak amount of money that they pay minor leaguers. That came up again. You have Juan Soto won the home run derby after flying out their commercial. And I know a bunch of you are saying, "Hey, that's fine. I can fly commercial. I would love to." I get that, but you're not a generational athlete. You're not someone representing a Major League Baseball team. They should show just a little bit of care and concern and do the right thing. Just do the big – we always talk about being big league. Do the big league thing. Big league teams should have done the big league thing by those players. Juan Soto turned down $440 million. They said, yeah, man, you can fly Southwest out to the All-Star game then, brother. All right, time to take a couple more calls. Then we will award the Kevin Hart tickets. Buffalo up next with a ding-dong of the week. Hello, Buffalo.
How you doing? I got 2 of them.
Let's hear it.
One of them is related to the Nashville SC. I didn't realize that section, I guess it's 233, is for the opponent's team. And when they did their light show with their little lights on their phone the other night, LAFC, the Los Angeles team, all of us casual Nashville SC, we were doing our phone lights back to them, and that was actually just to, locate all of the Los Angeles fans in the stands. Now we know it's a learning process over there.
Fair enough.
We shouldn't wave our fans phones at the opponent. But anyway, second one real quick. This is for Bubba, who got drunk in the creek this weekend and drove our 20,000-pound excavator up to the creek till he got it stuck about a mile from where we were digging, left his beer in the track hoe. Hey, Bubba, if you can't run a track hoe, just leave it in the creek. Y'all have a good day.
And if you're going to drink while driving your track hoe, maybe take your beer cans with you.
Boy, I did not. If anybody had $100 in the office pool on, don't leave your beer in the track hoe.
Drinking and driving.
Don't leave your track hoe in the creek.
A wide range of ding dongs, from a soccer game to a tractor in a creek.
Have they excommunicated the guy that wrote the letter yet that was so embarrassing a couple of weeks ago? He should still be ding dong of the week. He or she, whomever that is.
I don't know.
Still be ding
For
dong.
the back line.
That was ridiculous.
Our demands include better drink service. Cheaper drinks, right?
Discounts. Yeah.
Discounts.
That was dismissed so quickly. The most overplayed hand in history.
Yeah. He got roasted by his own people.
Yeah.
His own people took him out.
Well, that was the great
Team
irony.
didn't even have to.
Yeah, the great irony of that statement was complaining about lack of communication from the club, when they didn't communicate with any of their members, because most of the people in that supporter group were like, "No, oh my God, no, don't do this."
They've been in the stadium for how long, Mickey? 5 minutes. We barely played a season yet.
The paint isn't dry on the grass on the field. Let's get Scott in Hendersonville next. Scott, thank you for taking the time to call Blaine and Mickey today.
Yeah, my ding dong is for the security guard on the Rage Against the Machine concert tour. He let the guy jump on stage, and that's not the ding dong. Instead of tackling the guy, he tackled the guitarist of Rage Against the Machine off the stage.
He tackled Tom Morello?
I haven't seen that.
And there's a video of it. You can go out there and look at it.
Yeah,
I'm searching Twitter right now. I'm trying to find that.
Oh my goodness.
He tackled Tom Morello. Tom Morello's like, wait a second, man. I'm just up here trying to make these noises that I make on my guitar. What are we doing?
Wow, I can't find the video.
All right, let's do
We'll look
this.
for that.
We're up against our final break. We come back. If a lot of people have called in to try to win Kevin Hart tickets, we can try to squeeze in a call or two more. And I did have a Titans point that I've been trying to get to in this hour. And by gosh, I will get to that point next. I can promise you that. And we'll also award these Kevin Hart tickets for Ding Dong of the Week. It's Blaine and Mickey with special guest Alex Apple. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Alex Apple doing a great job sitting in for the Hitman, and Lucas doing a great job, as he always does, balancing all the phone calls and everything else that Lucas has to do. He is a magician back there. Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello. We watched the video in the break. Sure enough, a roadie was trying to tackle a rowdy fan who ran on the stage. He missed the fan and took out the guitar player.
It was excellent. I mean, total whiff. And the guy who runs on the stage jumps right off and looks like he goes right back into the crowd. Probably enjoyed the rest of the concert.
Probably did. Meanwhile, Tom Morello was getting first aid, trying to play Bulls on Parade with one good arm. We got time for one more. Matthew would be up next. Matthew with a ding dong of the week on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Hey, Matthew.
Hey, how's it going? First off, my thoughts and prayers go out to the Howard family.
Yes, sir.
All right, the ding dong of the week is my wife this weekend was shaving her underarms and almost cut her nipple off.
Oh my God.
Guys.
Almost is the key word.
Do we have a winner here?
Matthew, you are headed to Kevin Hart.
Hey, Matthew. You are going to see Kevin Hart. We will put you on hold.
Oh, my gosh. Take your wife, Matthew.
I'm sorry
Is there can you mandate that he takes his wife after that unfortunate series of events?
I don't know how we can enforce that, but no, I kid. We have not yet awarded the tickets.
I kid. Man. Did we just award the tickets? I put him back on hold.
I'm not opposed. I mean, Scott's unruly fan getting Tom Morello tackled is really good, but yeah, Matthew, just for pure shock value.
I think just to add non-insult to his wife's shaving injury.
Yeah.
Maybe
it sounds like they need a couple of Kevin Hart tickets. They need a good laugh.
I'll tell him he can only go if he takes his wife.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh man!
All right,
and send a picture in. Tweet us a picture or something.
No, do not.
Not of what happened of them at the concert.
Oh
my God!
I thought that was a slip of the nip there.
No, of them at the concert enjoying it. That he has to verify that the wife went.
No, Alex has to make sure that he's not making stuff up. There's no funny business.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, he's on hold.
I'm just making up stories.
Sort through that.
Oh man! Now I'm trying to make sense in my head of how that is even feasible. No. This is just things I don't have answers to.
I don't know if his wife will be on the physically unable to perform list, but the Titans did announce that some guys would be to start the season. I've been teasing this for an hour. I'm paying this off before 3HL. Monty Rice, who is basically the number 3 linebacker for this team. That's concerning because David Long played in 10 games last year. Monty Rice is on the physically unable to perform list. If you're on it when the season starts, you have to be out, 6 games?
Right. Well, now it's 4. Rule change.
Okay, so 4 games. Yeah, they tweaked all that. So it's not super alarming, but it will be if it goes on. I went back and looked. There was talk about leg and everything, but ultimately it's an Achilles injury for Monty Rice that has sidelined him. Tommy Hudson, the tight end, is on the physically unable to perform list. And honestly, if you ask the people who cover the Titans on a daily basis, I think a lot of us have been expecting, at some point he's going to get in the mix because we see him. But just staying healthy.
He looks the part.
He looks the part. Just staying healthy has been an issue. He's on the physically unable to perform list.
It tells you that they like him, too, because he's been unhealthy long enough that a lot of guys would have been shown the door.
If it's you and me, we're off on our next adventure. We're calling the Rock.
We're selling insurance.
Playing for the Battle Bots or somebody. And the other guy's Caleb Shudak, who's the little kicker. I don't really look many people in the eye over there, and I interviewed him. That dude has got a cannon for a leg. I told Blaine this on the air. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I was there the day he got hurt. But I said, I wouldn't be surprised if something happens and maybe he winds up on injured reserve this year. I think they like him, and his range is like in your zip code. He's in range.
I think they really like Ryan Stonehouse too, who's the punter that will compete with Brett Kern. Are you better than a guy that's been one of the elites in the league? I don't know, but at Colorado State, that guy showed some real potential. I think the Titans special teams has got to be a little bit better this year, right? Maybe, you call them mediocre last year. For a team with a little more uncertainty on offense, you're banking on, really, you wrote down, Mick, a top 5 defense. Your special teams has got to be a critical third unit. You've got to get something in the return game, whether that's Amani Hooker, Kyle Phillips, Trenton Cannon maybe returning some things. And then I think the biggest thing for the Titans is think about where they are. This is more of a macro look from a cap perspective. you need a lot of depth guys to show that they can play and contribute, whether it's Monty Rice, whether it's Hassan Haskins at running back, whether it's Kyle Phillips at wide receiver, somebody on the offensive line, Rashad Weaver at defensive line. You need some of these cheaper depth pieces to finally show that they can play and contribute, or the Titans are going to be in cap difficulty for a little while yet to come. And you'd like to be able to get some of that young talent to really help you.
Well, we can get into some of this tomorrow, but again, those three guys on the PUP list. The good news, and you're thinking, okay, what's the payoff to this that you've been talking about for an hour? It means that Traylon Burks is not. There was a podcast audio from Diana Rossini, who has an in with the Titans, who said Traylon Burks is in great shape, looks to be ready to go for camp. It also means that Robert Woods and Caleb Farley are good. After doing a lot in the offseason program, that would mean, and I'm going to knock on wood, that everything has continued to progress for them. So that means they'll be good to go when practice starts, even if it's in a limited capacity. It's time for us to go. Alex Apple, fantastic job. Lucas, fantastic job. All of you who called, you shared your thoughts, your memories of Mark Howard. You shared them in the Zone TV chatter on Twitter. We appreciate it. It's been a tough day, but we love Mark, and we're going to miss him, and we'll continue to remember him in the best possible ways and to be thankful to him for all of his contributions to this station and in sports in general. In Nashville and covering sports. But right now, 3HL's coming up next. They're going to do a fantastic job. I know they'll talk about Mark and their memories as well. It's time for us to go. As Blaine and I always say, in the meantime.
I forgot the next line. In the meantime, in between time. Peace.